Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel today for another movie review. Damien and I are getting ready to review the new film Kill, which is going to be coming to theaters July 4th. So this film has been making its rounds, whether you've seen it at its world premiere, I think, which was at Toronto International Film Festival, whether you have recently checked it out at Tribeca Film Festival, where it made its New York premiere. One way or another, this is a film that you probably want to put on your things to do list, because as advertised, it is listed as India's most brutal film ever. Trust us. And we're definitely going to confirm or deny if that's accurate or not. But nonetheless, as you can tell, I'm pretty much on the I'm going to agree with that side of this. I don't know what Damien's thoughts is yet. We haven't really chopped it up about it, but nonetheless, we're here to give you the review on it. So first thing I do want to say is because this is an Indian film, if we do mispronounce any actors or any of the characters' name, truly our apologies to that. We're going to definitely do our best with it. But nonetheless, whether your thoughts about international films are like you're in for it or you're reserved or whatever, listen, cinema. And I want to say that India has been coming to play recently. We just came off of the limbs of Monkey Man, which is on available digitally now. That really shook up the world when that came out. And I had my thoughts about it. For the most part, I liked it, but I said, I wish they would have kept on the gas with the brutality. They were definitely channeling a lot of John Wick, which John Wick had recently came out. So you had a good dose of what it looks like when you have a martial arts film based on revenge and a person's out for revenge the entire time. And Monkey Man, I think at times did that well, and then kind of let off a little bit there. And that was directed, written, and starred Dev Patel. So great for inclusion. Absolutely a win in that note. Absolutely a win for Dev to really get into gear and start putting out more films. Even if they want to do something else in that world, just because of how close that story is to the culture. But nonetheless, I still wanted more. So it brought me to this film, and I'm going to shut up here and I will give my thoughts after you. But yeah, you checked it out, sir.
Yes, I did.
You are a big martial arts fan, and
Yes, I am.
And for the years of the numerous array of movies that you've watched all over the world that you've watched, I brought you this one.
Yes, you did.
And I said, check in later. And I don't know if it's good or bad because I didn't hear from you. We knew we were going to do a review, but I didn't know exactly I didn't know exactly my thoughts because I know when I saw it, I was like, who can I text? Who can I call? But sir, go for it.
So this was not the movie I expected in those first 30 minutes of this film. Can I
give you an exact time? The first 45 minutes.
Yes, because that's when the title card kicks in.
Yeah,
45 minutes. I wrote that down, and that's what I was going to text you. I was like 45 minutes, but the first 45 minutes, I'm like, what drivel is this? Because I've seen enough Bollywood romance films, in my time to be like, another one? Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the killing part?
Yeah.
And then we got to the killing part. And let me tell you, if you've seen The Raid, if you've seen any Tony Jaa movie, like you said, John Wick, it's like this movie snorted cocaine and just went balls to the wall from that 45-minute onward mark. And we'll do light spoilers. It's fine. So I can start by saying it's not what I expected the first 45 minutes. And then they hit the gas pedal, like you were saying, your issue with Monkey Man. This was gas pedal. And what made me laugh, a lot of it was not even just the ingenuity of the deaths, right? Because there was at least 6 or 7 times where I screamed out, "Hey, yo," because I did not expect some people to die the way they die. You know what I mean? So, if you ever seen people put their face in the toilet, this gave me a new look to how people put their face in the toilet. Swallowing stuff that they're not supposed to swallow, people being put on fire. I'm like, what is happening? Yeah. And I wrote this down and I said, 3 times I said, "What the hell am I watching?" Because it was so chaotic in all the best ways possible. So, is this India's most violent film? I'll say from the ones I've seen over the last, let's say, decade. Sure, we'll go with that. I will agree with that. But I will say something I really did enjoy that maybe not many people would mention it. It's the cinematography for it being in one location. This whole thing is on a train, and it's very Daredevil hallway shot style. And I loved it because even though you didn't have a lot of environment, it's one of those you make the best of what you got. And even, the bad guys, the good guys, everybody in between, they made the most of their surroundings. And I thought just from a camera work perspective, a visuals perspective, that was one of my most favorite things of the movie, aside from the action.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna chime in first on the cinematography, but now that you beat me to the punch, I'll just add by saying the spacing, because it is a train, and the fact that they were able to utilize this train location, or them creating a train set, they really work the spacing. Now, granted, we can always say we want more in particular departments, and I think when it comes down to cinematography, the bar is obviously one shots. We love to see the camera continuously rolling and working around it, and that, I think, is just an impossible task to do in what they did. But because in the spacing, because they really made you feel claustrophobic at times, that made you feel like you were on the train. Yes. And I started to think a couple of different things. One, I would never ever get on the train in India now, so thank you. That's completely on my things to not do ever. But ultimately, because it is a more or less a state of survival, you think like, well, where would I hide? What would I do? How do I either wait it out till we get to the station, which we need to talk about the film is even about, but because of how it's shot, you actually get almost perspective in every single thing that you would think. You like, oh, if I hide under a bunker, maybe I'll be good, or a bunk, maybe I'll be good. And it's like, nah, we're gonna show you what's happening in the bunk right now. Like, oh, what about the bathroom? Like, yeah, let's go look at the bathroom real quick. What's going down the hallway this way, what's going down the hallway this way, and you're seeing. And again, it's not panning in the such, but every single time they have a cut, they're showing you no spot is unaccounted for in terms of how they shot it. And I definitely appreciate that. Like, the creativity in this film is a 10. And I think when you have like the movies like The Raid, which everybody at some point either wants to create it or is inspired by it to some extent. The Raid still stands on the top of the mountain. It's not even a question, but you can feel the influence, to the point that with The Raid, obviously we know who our protagonist is, which, like in this film, we'll talk about in 1 second, but also in The Raid, you just don't know what square offs you're going to get at any given stage of The Raid. You knew there was going to be another fight between two people, one person you may not even had really thought could be like potentially like the survivor, the lone survivor here. Like, and they did a really good job in terms of our good guys, our bad guys, but just the combination of the interactions between them. And whoever you might have been rooting for, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to make it out. They give you the first 45 minutes of establishing what the movie's about, really building up our star, our lead. And then at the 45-minute mark, when you get this title drop, which Indian cinema decides to take all the risks they want. 45-minute title drop is just unheard of, but it's a good point for everybody to know. If you've been driving around without your seatbelt, at some point it's going to catch up to you. This film says at 45 minutes, you might want to put your seatbelt on because danger is on the way. And all hell breaks loose. So literally, here's us telling you, and honestly, it might be the biggest spoiler of all of this, is letting you know that in 45 minutes, you need to be ready, because that title of India's most brutal film, I have it in my notes. The first 45 minutes, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And I don't even know how in depth my knowledge or my library of Indian cinema is.
Right.
But I'm like, that's not really sitting well with me, because there was some moments, but definitely not as much as I thought when you're proclaiming as such. especially with the trust me aspect of it. For 45 minutes, they say, okay, cool. So hold your beer real quick, hold it really tight, or just chug it, or just chug it right now because
take a shot.
Shit's about to get crazy. But let's go over the film. We're talking about the star here in Lakshya, who is a special ops commando, Amrit. He's madly in love, and she is every bit of the beautiful that they say she is in Tulika. But there's this one problem. One, because of the Indian culture, there's an arranged marriage. She decides that, like, they decide, well, what if we get married right now? Or, I intervene around this arranged marriage and we do our thing.
Yeah,
so
we run away kind of thing.
Yeah. So they said bet. And then word, they got word of that. People didn't like it, and all hell breaks loose. I don't know if there's anything else to add, that this is a guy that's on the train that now folks are targeting him, and because of the culture too, she's not protected. So anybody can get it. Women, men, kids, everybody. So the fact that like they're playing a dangerous game on this for the sake of love, where they're like, we're gonna go in love, we're gonna ditch this arranged marriage, and we're gonna do our thing. And then there's 40 folks on this train that says, yeah, well, that's not gonna sit well with us. Matter of fact, Jordan meme, they look back and say, well, we took that personal. And that's where you have a 1v40 on this. Also, White happened to protect his girl. Also, he has some allies, and allies come of all different ranges and size. So like, you're seeing a nice mix, a combination of stylings of fights, the utilization of the environments, and so on. And 40-minute mark, while the brutality in the first 40 minutes is like, I say like 7.
Yeah.
After the title mark, I'm gonna say like 70. But nonetheless, Lakshya is definitely the next rising star. The guy has the physique, the fight choreography. I mean, you bought into whatever he did. And I think when you inspire for the likes of Tony Jaa, Keanu Reeves, I don't know who else. I'm a big Scott Adkins fan, so you could say that. When you inspire for those folks that when you see them step foot on screen, you already know what time it is. Correct. You're like, yeah, it's not even a question. This guy is going to win no matter what. You could probably throw Jason Statham in that name, but like nonetheless, these people that have that reputation of like being a badass, I gotta say, like, much like I felt about Tony Jaa back in the day, I was like, this guy's going to be a big deal. Ito is another one where you just like, yeah, they're going to be a big deal. I got that feeling with him with this performance. I don't know when. First of all, when it comes to theater, hopefully it catches enough wind. July 4th, holiday weekend, perfect time to check it out. I don't know if it waits till it gets to streaming when people gets wind of it, but I'm 1,000% sure there is at least 4 to 5 moments that should go viral if clipped online. The bathroom thing you talk about, I would say the women's revenge aspect. I would say a particular death that happened that really just changed everything. There's just a lot of different moments. I'm like, if they get clipped, and that's the name of the game. You one way or another, you want people talking about your film. So whether they get ahead of it or the internet does what it does, I definitely think for the non-casuals, there's going to be particulars that's going to draw the utmost interest in this. And there's definitely a lot of, as you said, what am I watching scenes where you can say jaw-dropping, holy hell, what is this? They're all packed in here for a film that I think it's just a little over an hour and a half, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, before credits, about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So almost like we said, the first 45 minutes is just lead up, and then the last third of the movie is just like, all right, let's go. And to your point, and I can say also for this, like when you mentioned the allies, for Amrit, he had this random people just randomly show up. He had some grandmas, you know, that took their sticks and like their umbrellas and bats, and they did their thing. You know, he had his boy Varesh, who was in on the plan to like help him run away with the love of his life, kind of thing. And Varesh could not catch a break. Like he had, like when you're in watching UFC, right, or professional wrestling, and they pick one body part to continuously focus on. Our boy Varesh could not catch a break with his shoulder. His left shoulder kept catching it. And it was like almost every 20 minutes, it's like somebody else went after the shoulder. And I'm thinking, my man is like, yo, just lay there. just stay there. Don't go anywhere. You know? And to your point, I also want to bring up to the audience, like you said before, no one's safe in this movie. People you thought who might have been off limits, nah, it don't matter if you're old lady, woman, child, senior citizen. Nah, it did not matter. Everybody can catch those hands or those knives, as it were, with those 40 some odd bandits who never seem to run out of henchmen on this train. It started off for me. I'm thinking, okay, they got about 10 to 15, and then like 10 more pop up, and then 16 more pop up, and you're thinking, where the hell are you guys respawning from? It's like playing a Double Dragon and a Bobo's breaking through the wall out of nowhere, and that one big dude, the one who we all had trouble with. Like if we were in there, we would have had trouble with that dude.
Yeah.
Like, I kept thinking, who is this? A Bobo looking dude? Like he's taking all the shots. He don't care. Like there's no pain. He's just going.
Yeah.
And for me, as someone who likes good fight choreography, and I want to bring it back to that, because that's the main crux here, is that these fight scenes or these action scenes, and I wrote this down, the action scenes were for me a 9 out of 10 off rip, because they were done so well, and while fantastic, also realistic. Because it's not as if he's a superhero, Amrit, right? So he's a regular human, just really well conditioned and well trained in hand-to-hand combat. So he's getting tired, he's getting injured, he's dragging his beaten body, you know, up and down this train while using his brain as well. And it's not like a fighting game or a beat 'em up where you could get a piece of chicken off the floor and you go back to 100% health. Like the wear and tear is continuous throughout this whole movie. And I can dovetail my thoughts on this movie to say, love and rage are probably the best two motivators, but when you combine them, that is why we got Amrit just going ham for those last like 30 minutes of the movie. Because my God, at first I'm thinking, okay, this dude's pretty, like he's handsome, he's smoldering, he's got that, like you said, he's got that look. But when that switch got flipped, ooh man, I'm thinking, all right, this is a guy I would want in my corner, on my side, in a fight like this. And also shout out to the actor who played Fani, was it Raghav Juyal, and I got low-key vibes from him, conniving, manipulative, a little psychotic.
Yeah.
You know, and if you cross him, he'll be like, oh, you don't double cross me, or you don't challenge me, even though he wasn't the quote unquote ringleader.
Yeah.
He was the one stirring the pot the most. And he's actually a choreographer, Raghav.
Yeah.
So I thought his mental acumen in this movie was straight up Bond villain in all the best ways possible.
Great point.
It's like you got the physical manifestation of Amrit, and you got the mental manipulation of Fani, and it was a good versus evil, battle. Even though there are moments where you kind of understand where the bad guys are coming from, aside from the violence aspect, but you understand why they're doing what they're doing. So there's a philosophical divide here, like, hey, we gotta do what we gotta do, versus no, we're doing really bad right now. When like his uncle comes and says, yeah, you're causing us to lose this, this fight. But that last battle between them, it's like you got fresh Fani versus an exhausted Amrit, and he even makes a mention of it, like, look at you, beaten, bloodied. You think you can take me on now as like you are now? And again, like to the end, he was so conniving and so manipulative and deceitful. I hated him, and that made him a great character. You want to see him get his comeuppance. So they played very well off of each other as far as like foils to one another. So kudos to those two. And pretty much this was a great film, great popcorn movie for me. I'll just let you kind of dovetail whatever else you want to put, and then we can get to ratings.
The only thing for me is writer director Nikhil Buhat, I believe is how you pronounce the last name, Buhat. This is a fantastic job. Really looking forward to seeing more from him. It's a complete story because as a martial arts fan, you can absolutely give me all action, no plot. I won't be mad at that. And then there's a lot of them, but this one does tell a complete story, even to the point that like at the end of the film, you actually care. I'm not going to give anything away, but you actually care, and I think that they made every character count. You felt emotions through the ups and downs. The point that there's 40, they listed as 40 enemies, and the fact that it felt continuous just shows you that they made every bit of the 40ness count as well too. Because there's a lot of times where they exaggerate, where it's only 5, and they list it as 1 versus 1,000. It's like, I only remember 5 pivotal fights. I think there's for sure, obviously some big stage fights, but then there's also like some run throughs. It's like, all right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 gone right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I just think they told a complete story. They made every character count. They made every moment count. They made every bit of the location count. They used the space very well. And then I think they introduced the world to some really new premier actors. I will also go again by talking about Tulika. Tulika, played by Tanya Maniktala. I think that with this character and the relationship that Tulika and Amrit have, for what it's worth, you actually buy into the romance.
Yes.
That's what makes a lot of everything that happens in the film matter and count, because it is based around love, and it ain't because like, oh, she's attractive and he's attractive, they deserve to be together. You know what I mean?
There's a reason behind why, right?
Yeah, there's a horrible analogy here, but like if you just go back to Power Rangers, you just think like, oh, the red one and the pink one, or the green one and the pink one, they're a couple because they should probably be together. You've never felt that with them. They were just there, they make sure that you feel that with them. They make sure you understand why certain people are on whatever side of the coin they are. So again, they make every character count in this, and I just couldn't believe this out of nowhere, this film that I didn't hear much about comes through and definitely delivers a fantastic film to really kick off the summer, man. There's been a lot of blockbusters out there that's making a lot of money, but every once in a while there's that film that kind of sneaks in there, and you have to go back and tell another folks, but hey, I don't know if you heard of this, but like you might want to put this on your list because this did a thing or two, gonna have you talking. So for me, just at the tap into ratings, I think for what it's worth, it's a 9 out of 10, because the film isn't perfect, because there's obviously so much more they can do in terms of with martial arts films. Again, one shots right there automatically gets you talking about like martial arts royalty, when you can execute that. But it's a damn good film with still just room to maybe tell a sequel, maybe tell more, or just have the folks that's involved with this film get back together and do something else. And I think they take this one, they understand the investment by Lionsgate, they understand the desires by the world to want to see this, which obviously I go back to inclusion and representation. So seeing brown people fully represented in this film, in front and behind the camera, and putting out a film that's coming out in American soil, it's all a win. It's absolutely all a win. So for a lot of reasons, we celebrated Monkey Man for what it was able to accomplish. I mean, this is just that same conversation. You open up the door so that more can walk through, and that's that. So like around the board, as the critic, as the movie goer enthusiast, or just the human, this film does a lot right in terms of like making all of this stuff better. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me easily.
Yep. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, only because we did mention the story was a little like meh leading up to the 45 titular minute mark. again, I could have done without the romance cheesy vibes. I know that works for some people, but I personally didn't really dig it in that first 40 minutes. So I gave that the lowest mark. But overall, I'll give this movie an 8 out of 10. Please make this part of your rotation. Good popcorn movie. And again, I like movies that kind of make you think even when you're not supposed to. And this one made me think a little bit because I understood the bad guy side of the coin, aside from the violence. You know, I understood the psychology of they doing what they're doing. So 8 out of 10. Please go see this movie. Like we said, representation is one thing, but a well-performed film plus representation, that's all we really need. That's all we need.
Yep. So Kill, folks, coming to theaters July 4th. Once you check it out, get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about it. I know some folks have already checked it out across the world, whether it's at film festivals or whatever respective ways that you see films early. So definitely we invite you to come through and talk about it. But nonetheless, if you had not had a chance to check it out, whether it's Tribeca or a previous film festival, whatever it may be, July 4th, get your tickets. This is one you want to check out. But until then, we'll see you back here at Big O Bell Media for more reviews, content, all that other good stuff real soon. Thank you for watching, folks.